3 p.m. We have all commissioners present, except for Commissioner Banks. And do you want staff to go ahead and introduce themselves?
Sure.
Go ahead, staff, if you'll introduce yourself.
Steve Conkle, Director of Finance.
Okay. Who are you?
Keith Harris, Public Works.
Oh, you're Keith, okay.
David Frank, Crescent City Natural Gas.
You heard a lot about you guys.
Okay, and we have.
Charles Red, City Manager.
Karen Gay, City Clerk. Okay. And with that, if we were to stand and say our pledge of allegiance, if you're able, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Today what we're going to do is go through our capital improvement plan, a much expanded version of what we've done in years past. And at the same time, as a result of that, we'll have a better placed plan budget for the coming year, and then kind of a bit of a plan for the next few years. The spreadsheet you got is a boiled down version of what I had sent out a couple months ago, I think. I had a big packet. I had revised what Dale had done, but it's very unwieldy, so I boiled it down to just single lines for each item, and then where we think the money would come from. If you look across the top, so 2025 is pretty much what we think we've already got the funding secured. We don't have a grant for it by now. We're not going to have it really for next year. Across the top, better BPP is better place plan. And then the 3 CRA funds, North, Central, and South. We put those items in here, the grant programs, mostly because they're individually, they're each more than usually $10,000 or can be. And then have a line for grants, and then a line for legislative appropriations. Now those usually come to us as a grant, but this is a good tool to look ahead and make sure we're asking for money every year. I discovered as I put it together in the later years, I hadn't put anything in that line. So I had to look at it again, like what could we ask the state for, what projects? Then there's a line for debt, which is, we currently have a little bit of debt in gas and I think in sewer, but this is if we contemplate borrowing for something in the future. And then I have the gas fund, repair and replace fund, the water expansion fund, the water and sewer repair and replace fund, and the wastewater expansion fund. Those are individual funds that several of them are gradually fed from the bills that come in every month. By ordinance, we have like 10% is funneled off into those funds, so they gradually grow. So what we'll do today is look through, particularly in 2020 for 2025 to nail that down, and then 26, 27, 28, 29 are kind of our hopeful, especially the farther you get out. We have some things on there that are really wish list items. And again, all these, is if we don't get a grant, as we approach that year, it'll just get bumped to the next year. So,
Charles, if I could, Mayor,
Yes.
could I be recognized to ask Charles a couple of questions before we get started? Okay, so 2 things. One, most of this is the community improvement plan budget, with capital improvement plan budget, sorry. I walked here today, so forgive me. What is the definition of that? And like, is it our comprehensive plan that requires us to have that?
this is an element of the comprehensive plan. And my understanding is capital purchase is anything over, in our case, we use $10,000. So I remember back when we were doing a budget with Jody, and I wanted to put some, I think one of our budget amendments, we wanted to put a lot of money, I think it was in streets, and it was over $10,000. She warned us that we're getting into capital purchases, if it's anything over $10,000. So that's what all these purchases are, depending, no matter what the source of funding is. Some of the grants, CRA may turn out to be less than that, but I just put the bulk amount in there. So what we'll do with those CRA lines is we'll come back to those probably after you have your CRA workshop. We may adjust those and tweak them down, but it'll all be finalized for the September adoption. So what I want to do is just take a moment to jump to the Better Place plan to show you where we are with that. Because that's the first column, and those are really imminent purchases. So what I did was I created the budget line, obviously, is what we had planned to purchase. A couple of trucks, a trencher, a sewer jet, a pipe squeezing device, and so forth. And then we had a little contingency left over. We anticipated having $621,000 to work with. So where we are today is we've spent $280,839, and we believe we still haven't spent the power vent and easy vent for storage tank at $22,000. We hope to spend that soon. And then I put in the third column the Culvert Park restroom and the Lake Avenue stormwater. We didn't get to those. Spent a little money on the stormwater for design. So those will come forward into the, I think they're probably not in the copy you got. I thought of that later. We won't actually spend that money probably till next fiscal year. So I put for revenue, I kept the revenue the same. We'll tweak that as we get better projections. We anticipate $433,350 carrying forward as a fund balance to give us a total of $654,539 to work with next year.
Okay, Mayor, can I just make sure I understand this?
Yeah.
Okay, so Charles, what you're saying is the revenue that we expect from this year's allocation of the Better Place Plan tax, that's the 221,189.
That's new revenue.
Right, so annually new revenue, and we can ballpark, that's kind of what we anticipate every year.
Correct.
Although I guess if people start spending more, it might be a little more, but that's the ballpark. And then what you're saying is we will, on September 30th, you expect that we will have unspent $433,350.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I know where all that's coming from.
Now, if you look in that same line, so when we did the budget last year, we thought we would come into this current year with $399, and it turns out we had $515. So we spent much less there at the end than we were anticipating. So I don't know if the same will be the case this year, but we're gonna budget for $433,350. That we have that much left.
Okay, but so I'm not sure I followed quite accurately. There are some things in the far left column, or wait, maybe that was on the prior page. Are there big ticket items that we haven't bought yet, like the trenches?
We've purchased everything. We did not have done the power vent, which is $22,000. We didn't do city hall renovations because we're talking about moving out.
Right.
We did not get to the restroom at Culvert Park.
Okay.
And we tried a small fix of the stormwater project, mostly out of the streets fund, but we did do some design of a bigger fix that we're gonna move forward with. So,
That's Lake Avenue stormwater.
yeah, and then I'm not sure what the contingency was spent on, the $2,600. I don't remember what that was. Steve, you know?
It's on the bottom of your spreadsheet right there, I think. Yeah, that one right there at the bottom. It's to,
Oh, that was you approved the storage container, shipping container.
That storage.
Yeah.
The Christmas tree.
Okay, so for example, for the $22,000 for the power vent and the easy vent for the storage tank.
Mhm.
So the fund balance carryover that are you anticipating buying that before October 31st?
Yes, we factored that in to
Okay,
the carryover amount.
okay, so the carryover is after everything you might reasonably expect to buy.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So are everything clear on that? We've got, when we go back to the CIP, we've got $654,539 we expect to have available for the Better Place Plan column
For 2025,
for
correct?
2025, correct?
And is that, and the stormwater project in the restroom, are we still leaving that in there, or?
My request to you is to roll that forward into the new year's budget.
So is that included in the funds available, or?
It's not, we didn't take that out of that 433.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the new budget for 2025?
Yes, we're gonna go back to the others,
Yes.
to this. Okay, oops, why is it not
We
showing?
gotta get through this, so we know what we're doing on 2025.
Let's see. No, that's not going away. Interesting.
Was the easy vent thing, was that, we approved that, right?
Yes.
Just waiting to.
Just haven't gotten to it yet. Okay, there we are. Okay. So, if you look on this, is this big enough for everyone to see on the screen?
Do you have a different sheet than I do?
I just changed the text there to say, I think it says new fire station on yours.
Okay.
Does it say new fire?
I'm sure that you don't have any other changes on there.
There will be some changes at the bottom. I added those carryover amounts that you'll see. So the new fire station, that's $1 million appropriation we got. So it's over here in the legislative appropriations line. Update the historic survey. We received a grant, so that's in the grants line. Now this is an item for consideration. The entry features we've talked about, without knowing what new other designs would cost, the ones that I showed you were approximately $15,000. If we did 3 of them, it'd be $45,000. 2 of them could be paid out of the CRAs, but not the West. So that would have to come out of perhaps Better Place. So just to get us started, I put it all in Better Place. Let me show you the bottom here. I added that $130,000 stormwater project and the renovation of the aerator structure. That's going to be annually for, I think, 3 years. So right now I have a total of $664,200, and we have $654,539 available. So we're going to have to do some trimming.
Well, I think we should remove those entry features.
So I can move 1 entry feature into each of the CRAs, the 2, and leave 15 in Better Place.
North and south.
Mayor, I have a question about that.
Okay.
So, this is something that I wanted to ask the other day, but we didn't discuss it. So these are entry features for the city.
Yes.
So are we sure that it is allowable to pay for them from the CRA? Because I know they're physically located in the CRA, but it seems to me that these are something for the whole city, not just the CRA.
My feeling, because it's in the CRA, we can pay for it. I can check on that for you. If you want me to ask somebody?
Wayfinding and stuff like that, right? Like you can pay for wayfinding features.
Yeah, we pay for wayfinding.
But that's a little bit different, because I've always been told that just because it's in the CRA doesn't mean that we can pay for it. It's whether it's for the CRA purposes. So I would think we would need to check on that, because it's really for the whole city. Like if it was for the business district, the wayfinding, I'm assuming, relates to items in the CRA.
Well, it points often to items outside the CRA.
You know,
Like the
Now,
lakes.
someone could make an argument. One of the things you're not supposed to pay for with CRA is something ongoing that typically is paid for out of the general fund. You're not allowed to switch it over to the CRA.
and
Someone could make the argument that this entry feature previously was paid for out of the general fund, so it ought to be the
that was
general
my
fund.
concern.
Yeah, she's done.
Yeah.
Are you?
Are you good?
Yes, for that one, yes.
No, I just, before we decide that we want to cut this from the Better Place plan, I think we should discuss a few more items in the Better Place plan.
Okay, there may be some cuts over.
Well, for example, we go down to Colbert Park and you say restroom for that park. And I think before we put any restroom in that park, we ought to maintain the restrooms that we have already. There's a lot of repair, there's an awful lot of things that we need to do to our already existing restrooms.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure where we would get the money to fix them at this point, because the doors are falling off, the toilets have been ripped out of a few of them, I guess. I don't know. I've not gone and checked it all out, you know.
Do we have any
Probably need
toilets that are
to
ripped out? Do we have any toilets ripped out currently?
break in.
Nothing that I know of.
Well, that's a good idea to go ahead and step through, and then we'll circle back to what we can.
Okay, okay, so are we going down the list?
Yes.
Vertically? Okay, because to me, that makes sense, because then we can make sure,
Yeah, what we're kind of doing,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
before we,
well, that if we have an issue or question, we'll cover everyone.
So the next item was paving dirt roads. We've applied for an FDOT INSCOT grant. Apparently, we won't know till maybe August whether we were awarded. If we're not awarded, it'll get pushed to the next year.
Because it's been pushed.
It's been pushed, a couple of years. Since we got the Central Avenue, we've been denied another grant. So, but we usually go to the back of the line. Replace the natural gas regulator stations. That's the $1.5 million grant we have. And then Dave feels really good. We're gonna get the remainder of that, which is what, 6.4 million?
It's now, I think, up to 7.8, because they recalculated it, because those numbers were from 2022.
7.8 million. Wow.
So altogether, that'll be close to almost 10 million total, if you get it.
and you're confident?
And you feel,
Very, because we scored high last year,
Okay.
but somebody knew somebody who knew somebody.
No, it's okay.
Mayor,
More people are getting on.
I have a question about that.
Okay.
So for those two gas fund grants, David, are you the one who applies for those?
I didn't actually apply.
Well, if it had anything to do with it, I
Oh,
was just
yes,
gonna
yes,
say
yes.
thank you.
FGU, it handles all that. That's through part of the marketing deal and everything, but I have to supply them all the drop-ins, like what kind of pipe, what, where, I mean, it was like 30 pages of information.
And the natural gas line that we're replacing, where does that run from? Is that like from Satsuma?
The one that we're, as far as the grant money,
Yeah.
it applies to every system we have. That's 45 miles of pipe.
I just know we've replaced stuff going up to Satsuma, right?
Right,
That's,
that wasn't through a grant, that was through FDOT.
Right. but that part is fine, right? But everything else is obsolete.
That was about $5 million in the last 10 years.
But we hooked out with the DOT on that. And then parking Satsuma, we've done. That's all finished, right? Or
We've
all,
done that, then DOT pushed the job back.
right, that was my comment.
2027.
But we have that all done though, at least, so it's ready. And we just
Sure.
have to keep coming from, it's like 309 and.
Right.
Okay.
Well, a little bit south of that. The only bad part is DOT, when they wait and wait and wait, they change their designs.
Oh.
Because it shows in the budget that there's 350,000 sitting there. There isn't. They close that account, there's only 40,000. But they put that in knowing that they're gonna change their mind somewhere, or we're gonna have to redo something.
so you're gonna have to redo so they can let that, okay.
And even if it's more than 40,000, they'll pay for it.
Okay.
It's just,
But that's closed out, we
yes.
finalized that, okay. Any more questions on this?
The next item is, we had a lot of conversation about an animal control position. So they would need a truck and a cage, special air conditioning. The back of those trucks is a special unit. I have no idea what those cost. I know based on last year, we bought a truck for $51,000. I imagine that cage might be thousands of dollars. I don't know.
So we're looking at funding an animal control truck and cage.
Well, that's the question. If you guys have talked about putting it in the budget, it's gotta end up in a capital budget. That's one of the things we have to do is get the equipment for that position to,
And a position,
yeah, exactly.
and a position. Okay.
That would be general
Yes,
fund.
Commissioner, do that?
Okay, so we talked about this. I don't remember that we came to a conclusion or that we voted, but my comments now that this is appearing in the capital improvement plan is this. The first question to me is, if we hire an animal control position, and I guess, it's like which comes first, the chicken or the egg? You can't really buy the truck and cage, presumably unless you decide you have the money to hire the person, and we haven't looked at the general fund budget yet. But assuming that we can afford to hire the person and we can afford the control truck and cage, will the county accept animals that we send to them it's my understanding that they're still full.
Yeah.
And the last we heard, they were not, didn't they say no when we had the workshop?
Well, the county, I really hate to be negative, but I have to be negative about the county. The county really has not really stepped up very well. I mean, yes, they are putting an addition on to their building, but.
They're building a brand new building,
But they're building a brand new building, which is only gonna have 40 extras.
still not going to accommodate everything.
It's not gonna accommodate everything.
Right.
And the problem is some of the way that they want to, just the way that they play, in other words, they don't wanna, they wanna be a no-kill, but yet they haven't really devised a way with, other organizations and other places to manage that. They seem to not quite understand that, like the spaying and neutering, for example, would certainly cut down the amount of animals that we would have to catch and bring up to them.
Right.
And they need to understand that, most people can't afford a $300 bill to do that. So the thing that Janie's trying to do with the mobile unit, is very important in Putnam County, just to bring the cost of animal control with spaying and neutering down. So there's still a lot of moving parts right now as far as what's going on with, everybody within the county and all the different areas that are trying to work with the county. So, yeah, it's still an ongoing.
Okay, I'm gonna weigh in here. I know I wasn't at that workshop, I was absent that day, but for us to fund an animal control officer, and I know they had talked to us, I believe Commissioner Pickens, and through some of the conversations, had talked to the mayors about sharing possibly a position, and the three of us funding that. But if the question came up then, if we did that, and we had a loose dog here, and they had a loose dog in Malacca, who gets that service first? So it could be, and it could be an issue if the municipalities were to fund one officer. But at the same time, this is something that we pay for in our county taxes. And I think that we need to hold the county accountable for this, because I don't know, yes, we have a problem. All municipalities have a problem. I spoke to Malacca this morning about it. Everyone has a problem right now with our animal control, but do we have enough of a problem that we could keep somebody on staff busy?
Well, the conversation was it would be a combined code enforcement,
Code
animal
enforcement.
control.
Okay.
Animal control.
So when they weren't doing one, they were doing
And
the
the other
other.
thing I want to mention is, I went to a meeting and and I had the main people at the table that I had, and the main problem that everybody complains about is communication. And communication, trying to get somebody from Palaca down here, is very difficult. Now, think if you're in Interlochen, think if you're up on the border of Keystone, up around that area. All of the animal control officers are in Palaca. And so my idea, and it wasn't just my idea, but we discussed, they now have 5 animal control officers. And my idea was that the county should put an animal control officer, make quadrants, in each quadrant, make a quadrant. And from there, all 5 of them they would be responsible for their quadrant. But that doesn't mean they only are responsible for that. They can move around the county. It's just that the problem has always been you call them, nobody answers most of the time. And you call them, and if they do answer, it's gonna take them a half an hour, 45 minutes to get to where you need them. And by that time, okay, things have changed. So it's just a moving, it's a moving argument.
Finish.
Yeah, and there's more to kind of come with it all. So, Yeah, I think the animal control truck and cage is kind of putting the cart before the horse. I think, we do need to kind of figure out how we want to work with the county on this problem. But, where she says, well, where the county kind of says, well, we'll kind of work with you. I always hear from the county, it's a personal thing, it's a personal choice, people need to take care of their own animals. They have a different kind of attitude. They don't really seem to feel there's a real rush, to get this thing done, not really the county commissioners. So it's just been a very hard road for everybody.
Commissioner DeVito? Sure. Okay, yes, it's been very difficult. The county has one philosophical approach and people are getting bit and killed. So, the mayor had a good point. Animal control is really the county's responsibility. Every city in the county, every citizen in the county pays taxes for that. As well, we have an interlocal agreement with them. And we have to work within that framework. If we are going to change the relationships or who does what, we still have to address it in the interlocal agreement. Mayor, the takeaways I had from the last workshop that you weren't able to attend was, the county gave us pushback about if we would somehow catch an animal, they wouldn't necessarily take it.
Exactly.
And I am all in favor of us working with other cities, but also the other takeaway was, a couple things. Jenny Oakwood was at that workshop, when, I think it must have been Commissioner Burton, forgive me if it wasn't you, but when the idea of our own animal control officer was brought up, Jenny Oakwood recommended that if we did that it should be shared by the three municipalities in South Putnam. The other thing that occurs to me is, I don't know that one animal control officer would do it, because whenever I see a dangerous dog being picked up, there are frequently two officers present. There are a number of different points in which we are not going to be able to successfully pick up animals unless we work with the county. My suggestion is, and I know we directed Charles to write a letter, my suggestion is that maybe we all write down the things that we think the county should do. For example, I agree with Commissioner Burton, I thought of this as well, that the animal control officers need to be somewhat spread out.
And they're supposed to be, that's part of those, all of them, they all supposed to have their territories.
So when we're at an impasse like this and we are all suffering because of the lack of action we think needs to be taken by the responsible entity, I think we should compile the elements that we think we as a city should ask for and write that down on a piece of paper, include that in a letter. And by the way, this is the county's budget time. This is the time for us to make any requests to the county that we want them to include in their budget. And that's something that we do, on behalf of our residents. So we could compile what we think that is lacking and make that request.
Letter finish, yeah.
And make that request to the county, something that we can all agree on, and maybe even the mayor could take it to the other municipalities and see if we could get them to agree.
I just want to make one thing clear. I was at the meeting where they put down all their different wants, the animal welfare league. I made it very clear that I felt the best way to approach this is through the county, for the county to take the quadrants and put each quadrant to have their own animal control, and the county would control that. This is Plan B, to have our own animal control code enforcement officer. And maybe I didn't make that quite as clear, but the county just, I don't know, they just seem, I'm not gonna say they're reluctant, but but they're very slow to go. How's that?
So I think the consensus I'm hearing is to take this out.
Well, that would be mine, because we're not gonna talk, I mean, animal control, that's a whole nother subject that we need to talk about. But I don't know right now that this fiscal year, we're gonna be ready to do the animal control truck. And if so, if we determine, would be my recommendation, if we determine that we come to that solution, then when we do our budget adjustment mid-year, then possibly we could add it in at that point, or figure out a way to, if we readjust things, if for some reason.
Wouldn't it be better to leave it in and not use it, and have it there, so that we wouldn't have to do a budget amendment? Because we can just say, this is in here, and this is our plan B, but in the next year, we can probably get to a point where we know whether we're gonna go with plan B or not.
I think right now we have other things that you could probably find in there that you could, for our bathrooms.
Actually, if we cut this, we won't have to cut anything else out of the better place. This will make up the difference.
But Mayor, I think the foundational issue is, if we are going to buy a truck and hire someone, we or some combination of local entities, we need to have the ducks in a row with the county. We need to be
Right.
communicating.
Well, and the Animal Welfare League is really working on trying to get that done.
Okay, but they can't negotiate for us.
No,
They
but they can negotiate, how to get there, and then bring it back to, okay, the various cities and discuss how it will probably be done.
Take a
That would be my recommendation, Commissioners. I don't know how you feel about it, but I would at this point in time, I would probably have that removed.
But I'm saying, if we think we might go that route, we need to have the communication
Right.
with.
Oh,
the county.
absolutely, we gotta have that
Change that
communication,
over
and that
and
communication is gonna have to come, because if we go that route, we buy this truck, and then we're out there picking up dogs, and then we have nowhere to take those dogs, then we've really got to open up a can of worms with the city.
Yeah, and right now,
It's illegal, yes.
and right now, we don't have a place to take them, so, I mean, it's no.
Well, I found a shelter later down. Just kidding.
Well,
Okay.
that's something that, I mean,
That's
that
what
is,
Jenny is trying to
that
work
is
towards.
something that I think that Jenny's eventually, and it would be a good thing to have on the south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't Jenny say at that workshop that she was willing to, do
Yes.
4 or 5 extra seatings outside? or
Yeah.
She can take them, and she does
Yeah.
take them, and she even takes them from animal control.
Yeah.
If she has the space, and she can keep them separated, so it's, she has to juggle that to make sure that they're separated, they have to go through a
But
process,
she could be part of the solution.
but she is definitely part of that solution.
Yes, she is.
Okay, I'll continue.
Yes, please.
So we have 2 pickup trucks in next year's budget, and we're having some conversations internally if they need to be full-size trucks. We currently have 2 guys, at least 2 guys that don't have transportation. They have to buddy up. And then we have a Kubota because Kevin is currently using either the code, the meter reader Kubota or the CRA golf cart. And the wear and tear on both of those is adding up, so we better just provide him with one.
That's KUB, Virginia.
Does it have to be a Kubota?
Kubota.
I mean, can we go out and look for other avenues and possibly?
KABOTA.
You know?
Kubota?
Kubota.
Kubota, okay, noted.
I mean, does it have to specifically be a Kubota?
It don't have
We
to
just need
be.
it side by side.
I mean, Kubota's a good name, and don't get me wrong.
It's like generic, it's like Q-tip. You just say Kubota and everybody knows what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, I know, but there's so many other ones out there that seem to be a little less expensive,
Isn't there
but I don't know. I'm not-
Yeah, there's some out there.
We do, and that's why we got, he has it, and then Kubota's not.
Not quite, they're a little more than 6K, but.
I went ahead and put the redevelopment grants in here. We have to have that workshop yet. Also, something to introduce at the CRA is if you want to do a housing rehabilitation grants, there's really a very defined number of houses in each of the CRAs. So it's something we could probably take on with a potential end in sight to handle all the houses
Can
that are in the CRAs.
Sure.
I ask about the pickup trucks? Those are
Yeah.
for,
That was my question.
for what departments?
I believe it's one for natural gas and one for, right now Dave doesn't have a truck. And we were gonna get rid of an older truck that we have, but now we need to keep it even when we get another truck because we expanded another position in that department.
And there's no way that we can buy those out of the enterprise funds that they're serving.
You know, if you need a truck, you need a truck.
I can understand that, but I'm just saying, we've talked about the enterprise funds becoming self-sustaining and paying for their own expenses. It just seems to be kind of the easy way to do it by letting the Better Place Plan pay for it, when those are enterprise funds that are supposed to
Yeah.
be businesses.
But those enterprise funds are not in good shape, as you'll see on August 5th.
But I mean, the wastewater should be getting in better some shape. I mean, we'll have a rate increase in October.
Yeah.
And gas, I think we need to look at, that's one of the things we're gonna talk about is a rate adjustment.
Rate increase.
But
I just
those
would like
rate,
to-
but those rate increases
I understand.
also, we're trying to bring them to
I
where they
just-
can get them
I
back.
just am throwing it out there that I think we need to at least try and think about that in the future.
Yeah.
That gas pays for gas, water pays for water.
They should be standing on their own.
They should, absolutely.
Well, in Public Works, streets and parks are in the general fund, and there's definitely not money in the general fund to buy the trucks.
I just,
Mayor, I also had a
Yes.
question about the trucks whenever Commissioner Roy is done. Okay, and that's a great point. I think I asked before, is it possible to even make a loan from Better Place Plan? I don't even know if that's allowed, and maybe one day the Better Place Plan could be paid back. But I noticed, a few months ago, Charles, you did a document for us, equipment and vehicle inventory and replacement schedule.
Uh-huh.
So there, and I tried, didn't match everything up, but in 2025, it said for streets and parks, Lloyd's truck, the 2005 Chevrolet Silverado, that would need to be replaced. So is that one of them? Is that one of those two?
Yes, except we're gonna keep that now because we've got an extra position. We'll need that truck, actually. So right now, we have someone in Public Works, when they need to drive, we put them in the dump truck typically, or the bucket truck.
Okay, so what you're saying is even though that is going on a 20-year-old truck, can still be used, you're gonna keep it. And so you're planning to get the new truck for the gas department
Correct,
and then one more truck.
correct.
Okay, so somebody's gonna drive the older truck.
Yes, we, based on seniority, generally, we filter
Sure.
the trucks down.
Who got Karen's truck? What do we do with Karen's truck?
We're driving that one now.
Karen's Lloyd's. old
That's
truck.
Lloyd, that's what I
Lloyd's.
thought, yeah, it's pretty.
So now is it Margarito's truck?
Yeah, Margarita driving.
New
He's
guy,
driving
Margarito's
now.
driving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so replace the Chevrolet, keep Ford, add a truck. Okay. But at some point, then that Chevrolet will need to be replaced.
It needs new seats, because
Yeah.
every time you get in it, it will pinch you.
Well, I guess what I was trying to say is, I don't know if it's on the 2026 list, but,
There's another truck there, which we'll get rid of that one. Yeah.
okay, so it's accounted for.
Yes.
Okay. We don't want people being pinched.
New seats, listed.
Okay,
So then we also have wayfinding, which is an implementation strategy spread over the north, central, and south CRAs. Those signs are typically $1,000 or more a piece, so just buy a few each. You'll see, there's several years of that, we would buy a few each year.
When we were in Tallahassee last week, they've done a great job with their wayfinding.
Yeah, beautiful
Wayfinding
wayfinding.
signs. They really look sharp. They've done a good job.
The next item is something that is on my wish list. I think Dexter Beach looks really
It does.
bad and it's all washed away. I'd like to dump a few 5 or more loads of sand on the sandy part to just reinforce that. So it's a fluffy sandy beach.
Because
That's
right
a want, that's not a need, but
That's a need.
it's a need.
That's a need. I feel it is. I mean, I went down there with Ronnie and we raked it and it's muck. I mean, the whole beach line pretty much, except for this one little strip. But a lot of that has just and up on the beach area, it's just real mucky.
It's all
And
gone.
families use that. The other day, we went by Saturday and the park was packed. I mean, the parking lot was full. Couldn't get another car in the parking lot. and there were multiple families having different picnics all over the park. Very respectfully.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it really is getting a lot of use. And when I think about the children and families just out there, it just is, I would not.
Right.
That's not, and just thinking about it between your feet and all, it's just not, it's yucky.
Now, once upon a time, that sand came from a local place, but we're talking about like buying this from Grandin and having them bring it down.
Where did it come from, that last?
It'll come up there, Eureka, Brandon,
Grandin,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
same place it's come from every time.
We bought a load within the last, since I've been here, but it just had no impact. So little, one dump truck load.
Well,
and how much did that cost for one dump truck?
I think now it's up to $700 a load for 18
So we're
yards.
talking about getting several loads.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's
more
gonna-
than just-
It's gonna need,
Yeah.
how many do you anticipate it would need, Keith?
Well, for $10,000.
Probably
Yeah,
Doesn't need
7, I would think, I think
Probably
they
gonna
need
eat
at
up
least 7.
7 to 10,000.
Okay.
I think it is definitely one of our more traffic parks, and, you know, it definitely usage personnel.
Mayor, can I just say, one of the problems is some of the sand, the last time the sand was dumped, the sand is being dumped in the lake. And when you say the sand is washing away, we're actually kind of filling the lake. The
This
lake-
was dumped on the shore and spread with our backhoe, so it
No,
wasn't. put in-
I saw it being dumped. They were dumping it in the lake.
They dumped it in the
Keith,
lake?
where are they dumping this?
I saw
I-
it.
I
Last
saw-
load was dumped up towards the top of the hill.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought it was kind of dumped where, they played, volleyball.
Volleyball.
Yeah, that's where I saw it.
Not all of it. Some of it was dumped
It was
right
dumped in
there.
between the lake shore and the,
Yeah.
kind of the volleyball. It wasn't, if they dumped it in the lake, it was,
But when it, yeah, I saw it. Some of it was being dumped in the water line.
Well, we'll make
and
sure
I
it's-
can see, I can understand if they did dump some in the water line, because the water line is really mucky. And it's, so, I mean, I can see them trying to
Well, we can make sure that,
smooth all that, yeah, to make it look like a beach.
But I'm just saying, if you're dumping it in the water, A, you're filling the lake, which we're not supposed to do, and B, it's not gonna be fluffy. And if people are swimming there, it should not be mucky, because it is a sand lake. Underneath the plants, there is sand. That is the geo configuration, the city needs
Well,
to act.
there is sand, but it's mucky sand.
But you have to, well, the more people that walk on it, the less mucky it'll be.
noted. So the next two items are for Colbert Park, and I had a conversation with Fred Fox today about FERDAP. I wanted to make sure we didn't miss the application. And he says we can go for a normal $50,000 or $200,000. So I asked him, could we go for a combination, the restrooms and the playground? He said, yes. In fact, the playground's good because if you just go for a restroom, you can't get 100% of the funding. You can only get funded for half if it's
Because
not
it's a point,
play.
those are, for those points, right? You have to-
Yeah, for play structures and things like that. So I'm talking to him about, so we could move that 60,000 out of Better Place into a grant line, if we pursue a $200,000 FERDAP grant, which we would not be required to match due to our ready status.
And I think that's.
They have, go ahead, I'm sorry.
What I found is the prefab bathrooms are much more than $50,000. Anyway, we had budgeted.
That bathroom, I was over there Saturday and a resident was complaining, the bathroom, and I guess it hadn't been cleaned.
They're nasty.
It's clean, hadn't been cleaned in a couple of weeks and there were,
which one, Colbert Park?
yeah,
I spoke to them this morning, I
Did you?
spoke to,
leak.
the pot, the.
Lee called me about the portalet having
Yeah, the portalet.
not being serviced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Karen talked to Gotta Go, yeah.
Yeah, Judy said this morning that they will be out there tomorrow.
So I made that adjustment. The next item is something we just noticed as we were talking about park sign, I've been putting new park signs out. There is no sign at Eva Line, and as our signature park, an idea was just to put a monument style sign at the road, like you would see in any kind of central park or downtown park. Again, that's just a guesstimate of $20,000. It would depend on what you wanted to spend on a monument sign for Eva Line Park. And then the paint the south water tower, we brought that last year and then pulled it off. So every year, I think that need just becomes more imminent.
Can I ask about that? That was that there's lead on it? Or
Yeah, they'll remove the lead-based paint
Okay.
and that actually extends the life. At some point, we'll have to stop using it. We'll keep it full of water so it doesn't fall over, but stop using it and use a ground tank, what Keith's telling me. But if we do this, we can
It's old,
extend
right?
the life of using it.
When was that water tower first built? It's,
1924.
that's what I thought, so it's 100 years old. Okay.
We can extend the useful life of it by repainting it. So I think this is important.
Because right now, is it just layer of paint on it and we strip it all off? Is that what?
Yeah, they'll come in and tin it, sandblast it, so none of it escapes, and then they'll go back and prime it. And you can pretty much choose your color then. Right now, you have to go with what's on the tank now.
Oh, really? We can choose our color?
Not teal.
Yeah.
And we can put a logo, a new logo
The
on
aqua, I mean, it kind of goes with water, aqua.
it. And then,
Water is the color, aqua is the color of the water, yes.
It depends on which lake you're in.
But is that something that we could get legislative appropriation for?
we could go after it.
I mean, it seems to me that I don't know. I thought that's what.
I think I put it in there.
Yeah, I thought that's.
I thought we
Last
had it
year.
in there the year
Yeah.
before last, not this last year before last, we put it in there and it didn't make it.
We didn't make it. And then the raise the tree canopy is just an issue brought forward by the fire and public works of the trucks hitting the canopy as they go through some of our roads.
So what,
We would contract with a firm to go through and
Raise up.
raise the canopy over the
that
streets.
doesn't seem like a capital.
Well, it's $20,000 contract. That was,
Better place plan is supposed to be spent on infrastructure, like either design or, design of or construction of, brick and mortar items. So water plant, water lines, stuff like that, or design of them. Then I don't see how that seems to me to be an operational thing. I know it's over 10,000, but, so it might count as capital, but I don't think it would qualify under the better place.
Better
plan
place.
as infrastructure, the infrastructure surtax will pause.
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, I have the same question about that because I was looking at the chapter 212.0552, which is the allowable better place plan expenditures. And I don't see how this fits in. I mean, we've been looking for money for tree replacement and maintenance off and on for years, and nobody's ever suggested a better place plan.
well, I could move it to grants and then move it to 26.
Well, but
I mean, that's,
I have another comment about that.
Okay.
I mean, to me, this is something that not just, I mean, the time to trim trees is not when you let them get to the point where they're quote getting in the way. These are some of our most beautiful trees. They provide the shade. A number of arborists who've been to the city to look at things the city's asked them to look at, and arborists who've been to my house have said, these heritage trees need some very careful maintenance to extend their life. So I would like to see us, for two reasons, find the money to do this, to do that necessary trimming to extend their life. And that includes making sure that they're not so low that they're gonna be damaged because they're snagged on the truck. That would be really sad. I mean, you could pull off, you could really, really damage a
Well,
tree.
and that's why we need to do something with it.
Right, but I'm saying it's also for the health of the tree, and you don't just wait until it gets in the way, and there's some other trees that I think are not on major
Well,
thoroughfares.
and we have been, the city has been, it's been basically on more of a crisis basis, on an as-needed basis, because just like what we're sitting here now, is finding the funds to do that. So we're gonna have to find the funds to do this.
So we'll have to push it to 26.
I don't think
I
I
see.
don't wanna put it to
No,
26,
saying I
I think we need to, somewhere or another, we need to figure out where we can find the money to do that.
we should be able to.
That'd be general fund and
But no,
I'll tell you-
a grant program with like the Arbor Day or the Department of Forestry, I mean, we
There is
really need
no
to.
one, there is no grant to help you trim your trees.
No, I was gonna say, we need to do a citywide tree evaluation and inventory and then assess what needs to be done, instead of just cutting here and there and fixing it for the fire trucks. I think there's gotta be something like that that the Department of Forestry does. I mean,
There are grants for tree
I
surveys,
start.
but again, we wouldn't have that money until 26.
Okay, I'm just saying that instead of doing it piece by piece, let's look at it holistically and kind of try and have everything evaluated. I mean, just makes more sense.
I just wanna say this, May, if we wait too long, okay, Florida Power will come along and trim our trees again. And we all know how they trim the trees. They just go straight up. They don't even give it a thought. They just bring in the things and go straight up. And so I really think if you care about the trees, then you really need to find the money.
Do what they want to do.
Yeah,
Well, but actually, contrary, I think it makes more sense to do the ones on the major thoroughfares, because that's where the most traffic is, that's where the most danger is from passing vehicles. I think, if you just try to do everything globally, we wouldn't have enough money, and if you know anything about trees, and arborists have just going down the street said, you need some attention to those trees for example, on Main Street. So I don't think it's rocket science, except you have to find a really qualified person to do it. And I would agree with the mayor that we need to move forward, especially on the major thoroughfares where there's so much traffic.
Well, I'll see how much money we can put in the general fund on the tree budget and take it from there. The next item is Cherry Street sewer extension. This is a new sewer line. We have a developer who bought property this is South Cherry. It's actually called South Cherry, but the south side of 308. He's currently going through rezoning now and replatting 13 homes he wants to put in there. And so we need to connect him to our sewer. And we talked to him early on about sharing the cost of that, since they want to go with septic. Like, no, we really want you to go on sewer. And Keith, what are the projections coming in at? Cost?
It's gonna probably come in a little over 100,000.
So we would split that.
Buying the material and hiring somebody to do it. I haven't really got the prices on the labor part of it, but the material part is gonna be pretty good. The paving, I talked to CTS Paving, they said they could come in middle of the road, repave the whole thing for like 60,000.
We'd like to wrap it all up where we run the sewer down the middle of the street, so we can protect the canopy there, and then repave the road. That road needs repaving and make it all sewer project.
And you said the developer is willing to.
We want to pay half.
Okay.
They're pretty sure they're willing to pay half, so we're just waiting on them to get if we pay to get the engineering done, mid-tower, they said roughly 10 to 15,000. If we can get their surveyor to shoot the elevations for us to where they don't have to hire a surveyor to come in and out of Jacksonville. Now, Cherry Street is also one of them roads that needs some severe pruning of the live oak trees. There's, not trying to go back, but there's trees on East Grand Rondo that are being hit by the trucks now.
Is that where the problem is?
Oh, we got live oak limbs that are in, and I don't really want to have to cut them, but we have no choice. There's several on East Grand Rondo, right there in front of Veronica's house, down there next to the beach.
Lower and lower.
Yeah, and then we got a lot of water oaks that's got to be raised up. I am working on prices right now. I've met with a couple tree guys. So just to get a rough idea, let them come in, but we do not have the time, and we really don't have the place to dump the debris.
Or really the liability, I don't, you guys don't need to be.
There's also expertise. The heritage oaks need to have a highly qualified arborist like we got for Eagle Lions Park, because you want to make sure they know what they're doing and extending the life of the tree, not shortening it. And you gotta have special expertise for that.
Okay.
So that's coming out of comes out of the wastewater expansion fund, which we have funds in there for that, to cover that. the next three projects,
How are we, can I ask you a question real fast on that? So if they want to put in septic, have we gotten any type of a letter of commitment from them that they would split the cost with us?
Not yet. We haven't got nothing because they still gotta go get all their rezoning and whatever they need done.
Because what we have to also determine is, we don't want them to go septic. Is septic gonna be less expensive for them to go that route?
Well, the gentleman threw a figure at me, which I don't think he's right. He said they were about 8,000. I haven't seen a septic tank yet anymore that was $8,000. They're 10 to 18,000.
I was thinking more like 12, yeah.
Yeah.
Put it up top of them.
The budget, yeah, depends on the work.
Unless he's getting it because he's doing multiples, so he's getting.
Well, they built a lot over in St. Augustine.
So, okay.
Mayor, I just have one question about that. Are we obligated, are they entitled to the rezoning? Or is this, I mean, are they asking for something that's already in the future land use plan? Is it discretionary with us, or does it have to be granted?
well, they're coming to planning and zoning for the rezoning. And I forget, that's
There's one commercial lot on 308, the rest of them are zoned agricultural.
agriculture, so there'll be a public hearing.
But I guess what I'm saying is, do we have any discretion? Are we required? Is it mandated to us to grant it? Or,
I'm not sure if that's quasi judicial or legislative, to
well,
check, I hate to speak out of turn.
but I guess rezonings, as I understand it, are quasi judicial, but was my understanding that some zonings, people are entitled to it because of the future land use designation.
They meet the criteria, yeah.
But, and sometimes they're not entitled to it because
Right.
they don't meet the criteria.
Yeah, if you're changing the future language, then,
So-
They are applying for a comp plan amendment.
because they gotta change the thing.
So I
Future
guess-
land use is ag, so they're applying for a comp plan amendment as well.
So, I mean, my question to that is, like the mayor said, well, do we have a letter of commitment? My question is, do we have any ability to negotiate with them on that issue? If if it's discretionary with us, can we have that as a requirement?
Do we have
And I
any
don't-
leverage? Do we have any leverage?
But I don't expect you
We
to
do.
answer that now, but to me, that is a question, just like, letter of commitment. What can we do here?
Well, we require that if you're within 200 feet, right, you have to hook up to sewer. But the whole project's not within, so it begs the question, like, once they hook up, are the next few lots then within 200 feet, and then within 200 feet? So just early on, when they came in, they're asking about building. I told them it was a possibility, we could share that cost with them, they would consider going to sewer and rather than septic. So my hope is the commission will support that effort to
Yeah, we should.
help them.
Yeah, I
We have
mean,
a
I
fund
said
for
if we
that,
split, even if we split it with them and you've got 13 times, you've got 13 and they're doing times 8, it's right about the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
4,000,
it's a lot less maintenance and
so,
headache.
That's 104,000 for them for just septic, so if they,
Yeah.
it would be half, so
that's
that's
what I
saving
said.
money.
it's-
They actually save the money.
And it would be beneficial to the
The homeowner,
homeowner.
I was just gonna say, it's very beneficial to the
So
homeowner.
it'd be
And it would be
beneficial.
beneficial to the city.
Yes.
Well, so,
Okay, I want to make a note on this, the next North Main Street Water Main Project. We have a CDBG for 650. But South Main Street, where we had 450, came in at almost $900,000. And it's shorter than the North Main Street part. So I anticipate that our $650,000 will not cover the cost of that project. So I put $300,000 there in the water expansion fund coming out. I hate to cut that project short because the grant doesn't quite cover it and we don't make it all the way to 308. My hope is you guys will approve us putting in the funds to supplement the grant to get us all the way and do the whole project as designed. We don't know that yet till we put it out for bid, but this is an anticipation of the bids coming in at 900 to $1 million.
Mayor, I'm
you're talking about
confused.
North Main?
So the South Main project is shorter than the North Main project.
Right.
And the bids for the South Main came in over $800,000.
I got that part.
So for North Main, we've got $650,000 grant, and we're hoping to build the whole project.
It'll be much
But it's
longer.
likely it's gonna come in $900,000 or $1 million when we put it out to bid.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mayor, I have a question based on that. Because what confused me was you said you want to make it all the way to 308. I was assuming, okay, the 650 is CDBG,
Yes,
okay, and we asked for that for North Main.
yes,
So don't we kind of have to use that for North Main?
we will. It's from Central to 308, but
Right,
I don't think there's enough money.
He's
To do
saying
the
that we're
project.
gonna probably have to supplement it.
but you're
It is-
for the South Main.
No, for North Main.
For the North Main, because the
South Main's done, that was just a
came in so-
comparison.
Because the South Main came in so much higher, and luckily we were able to use those funds from Prospect over, so that's done, take that out of the
Okay,
equation.
you didn't say that part. Okay.
But because it came in so much higher than they originally anticipated, and it's a shorter distance, that when they go onto North Main,
That's a
chances
long
are
distance.
it's gonna come in larger than the 650, and he's asking us that we're gonna have to supplement it.
Thank you.
Just
That makes perfect sense.
Be prepared for that.
Okay,
We ever go to
Based
bid.
on what South Main came in at, which is.
I get it,
Because
okay.
it goes up to 308 and goes down,
It tees off a little bit there.
Right,
and then the lift station.
okay, that Mayor filled in the gaps, so my question is for water expansion?
Yeah.
Does that mean, can we use that for improvement? That's not for like serving new streets?
It is for any expansion of the water system. So in this case, we're going from, what is it, like a 2-inch pipe to an 8-inch pipe,
Okay,
which will improve. But that's just an anticipation, those bids are gonna come in really high.
okay,
And then what's not in your sheet, I think, is I added the North Lake Street Stormwater Project, because we're getting that rolling. We tried to do a little fix that didn't work, but I don't think we'll start spending money until the next fiscal year.
So
So
just mayor, we don't have South Main, Prospect. like,
I added all those in. Yeah, those were funded for this year, but we're barely spending that money yet. So they've just started digging today, in fact.
Yeah, they did, and
I saw
I
that.
was amazed at how much they dug, they've already dug. I mean, this morning, first thing, and then when I came back around, they've dug almost a whole nother block.
They should do 100 feet at a time, they're supposed to finish that and fill it in by the time they're done.
So and maybe they'll finish some parts of this before, but just in case it rolls into the next year.
That's what the plan is.
And then the North Lake Street
They did a very good job with it.
and the renovation of the area, that structure, remember last year, that was a 3-year payment plan, the 17.2.
There.
So we'll have that again next year. And Lake Street Stormwater Project, we haven't put out that to bid, so that'll be interesting to see what that comes in. So that puts us, we've now trimmed that.
I mean, if you know, the aerator structure is 3 years. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's now we're at 514, so we would have a contingency of that difference there, $140,000.
Well, that's,
That's bigger than we've had contingency in the last couple of years, so it's sizable.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot accomplished.
Yes, we have. So any more questions on 2025?
can you,
yes, I do. But I think Commissioner Lori has questions
I was
already.
just gonna ask, when you revise this and give it to us, can you put a
Yes.
total column on the end? Because are there some, we have
Yes.
multiple sources, I was kind of thinking.
It's gonna be a challenge. It's already a legal size spreadsheet.
That's gonna be a challenge.
I'll squeeze down the description column.
You can squeeze down debt and gas fund, R&R
Well, the next year's there's stuff.
Yeah, there's
stuff.
next year,
But
so
for this one, you can squeeze that down possibly.
You can just combine all the CRAs.
Well, I just want to have an updated sheet
yeah.
with everything on it, but that wasn't my question. So, I wanted to ask a couple questions. One, you mentioned FERDAP. Do you remember when the FERDAP grant deadline is?
I think it's August, maybe. I just spoke to Fred about it this morning, because last year he called me like the week of the deadline, and
Like August 1st?
I'm not sure. I'll ask Fred. I'm on a call with him Wednesday morning, so, yeah.
Yes, I remember. And so, well, the mayor's not here, so I'll hold my question. Because when we, well, can we wait there?
Yeah.
Comes back?
Sure.
Okay. Yes, I think we definitely need this.
The FERDAP grant, you said we do 200,000, is that in lieu of doing 250 or 250,000?
Yes, I think it'd be in lieu of the $50,000 grant.
Is that, I mean, if not, we should have 250,000 ones, I mean, we should have 2 open at a time.
He warned me, it's a little more competitive, the bigger grant.
Okay, I would assume.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the demographics going for us as far as, and the usage, you know.
I think it may be possible to have two $50,000 grants open, and I'll ask him about
That's
that.
how it used to be. I'm trying to remember. Yes, it says 2024-25 application cycle was August 1st through September 15th.
Okay, so we have till the middle of September to
Last
apply.
year.
Okay, sometimes they change.
I'm just telling you what it says for here.
Right, so I'm saying we should look it up. Thanks, BJ, you're amazing. I asked a question and wanted to know about whether somebody could get bail, and the sheriff couldn't answer, but Commissioner Lloyd looked it up. Well, anyway, so, Mayor, I waited until you came back because I had a question. I circled back up to restroom and playground equipment for Colwood Park, because when we started the discussion, Commissioner Burton had brought up whether it was advisable, I think I heard you correctly, to build more things at Colwood Park when we were having a problem maintaining
What we already have.
what we already have. I think that's a fair question. We have facilities that just always, will always seem to have an issue. And it's expensive. One of the parks people mentioned to me that there's like a damage list that they fill out, and that they're always filling out damage lists. I know, I mean, I went over to Harry Banks Park the other day, and I didn't consider the restrooms really usable because one of them, the door wouldn't even shut. And that was, I mean, that's a really concerning situation.
Well, that's what I suggested at our meeting, our last meeting, that we actually have a workshop on
Right.
parks.
Right,
We
so,
really need to figure it out.
yeah, because to me, they continually suffer considerable, damage, whether it's as bad as the fixtures being ripped out of the wall, or it's just the doors being broken and the plumbing being stopped up. I agree, and so I'm a little bit concerned that before we figure that out, we're signing on the dotted line, because it's possible, I don't know, I mean, to me, when I look over here, there's, on the next page for 2026, there's $3,000, there's not 3,000, 3 million, under debt for potential city hall relocation. And certainly, any cash that we save in Better Place Plan funds can actually be used to assist with
Yes.
relocation. And, that we really need to see where do we want to put that cash. Because $3 million is a lot of money.
And we could create a line in Better Place, park improvements, where like if you decided we want to go and switch out to metal fixtures. So we have a budget line in Better Place and we buy what we can with what you've allocated. Like right now, I think it's 140 left. If you put 40 as an example, we would switch out fixtures until we ran out of money this year, and then the next year we would ask for some more and switch to those metal stainless, something like that as an example.
We need to discuss all of that, everything that it needs, and we've hit a few things today, but, yeah, that's for another discussion.
Yeah.
really.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna have to eventually put money in here. I mean,
Yeah.
all the bathrooms the last couple of years have been painted. They're ready to probably be repainted again just because of the abuse. And there's many things that need to be done in those bathrooms, and they do get washed out. I know for a fact. I've done it, I've watched them do it, and,
Oh, they get cleaned.
they do get cleaned.
That's not.
And so it's just that they're dealing with people that are abusing them, and so we've got to figure out, if that's the case, and we're just every year, then we need to make sure that we have a line item in there that just goes to bathroom
Maintenance or something.
replacement.
Vandalism. repair,
Vandalism, vandalism.
I don't know, to me, that's getting over into the workshop discussion.
Well, it is, but I'm saying also that as we go through this, we need to think about that we're gonna have to find monies. Because there definitely needs to be monies in here. So,
Okay.
Go ahead.
So 26, again, this just says fire station, but that's that combination ambulance, fire, and law enforcement. We need to ask the state for some more money. So I put in appropriation, 2 million, and it will probably be 4 million, and we'll see what we can get. I think this year I asked, can't remember if I asked for 4 or 2 million.
Yes, for two.
2 million.
Yeah, for
Is the
two.
plan still
They
to
asked
have,
us if we could make it with one.
is the plan still to have the building over where our fire station is now include all of the condominiums that we're putting in for people? I'm just joking, but, it seems like we're gonna probably have to have an upstairs and, it's probably gonna be
Well,
something.
based on the sketch we got already, we can, with this budget, we could afford a building behind the existing building.
Right,
Would replace the carport where the squad and the boat sit. And it would house the ambulance, dorms, and a common room, day room, and maybe a little office.
Mhm.
So the hope would be a second future phase would demolish the current building and build just bays for trucks and a law enforcement office in the front as an example. We wouldn't need another common room or more dorms necessarily, or we could include some dorms.
but you feel we have enough space there?
Oh, absolutely. We could come all the way out to the road. We don't need that.
It's based on
It doesn't go
and we're
higher.
already 2 stories, it's already 2-story and had living quarters up above.
Yeah,
And when the fire marshal came in, there's a rating, a wall rating, and so that.
okay.
So some appropriation, again, the value of this document is reminding us to look at what can we ask the state for. So then, this may be too early based on our BRC discussions, but at some point we'll need to put in city hall relocation costs, whether that's going to be a combination of grant funds or debt, if we agree to take on debt. So I just put a figure in there to get us thinking about that. And then some of our other projects, the North Main Water Project loop, we've applied for a grant once for design. We were not successful. We're going to apply again this year. So that money would be available in 26.
Now, what are you calling the North Water Main Loop? Where is that? What is exactly?
That's coming out of the North Tower, right? Is that the North Loop?
And that would be Walnut.
Okay, over,
Yeah, it's dealing with the North Water Tower and creating a
That
loop.
would be Walnut and Oakwood, would be the loop.
Yeah, up to Oak Loop.
because I mean, do we ever do anything for the area where Harry lives?
There is a project in there to
Okay,
finish the loop of the water lines there, which increases pressure, as I understand it.
Mhm.
That's a project I'd hope to do if we get the INSCOP grant. Maybe we can do that before we pave those dirt roads, we
we can do that.
increase the size of that water line.
Okay.
It's a short project. We might be able to do it with our water expansion fund.
Well, actually, I was wrong on that. The loop includes Williams Lane. We'll go up Oakwood behind Winn-Dixie.
Yeah.
Go down where the houses are at, which is Williams Lane.
Yeah.
And come back down Walnut and connect back at Citron. So, and then it would also go from Walnut to Oakwood right in front of the cemetery with a loop.
Okay,
So, yeah, it would include the houses.
okay, I was just curious. That's good.
So in the New Moon restoration, we've applied for a $50,000 grant. So I have that under grants, and then I put 10,000 in Better Place simply because the cost estimate we had to complete construction plans, we needed another $60,000. So the grant wouldn't quite cover that if we're awarded the grant.
Now, when you applied for this grant, did you also include, a rendering of what the building and everything is going to look like, or didn't we do a?
Yeah, with the architects, they provided some wonderful graphics. And actually our architect is on the selection board, so that's a big help.
It will be.
I feel pretty good about the grant, so.
And So that grant becomes available in the 26 fiscal year,
Yes.
October of, wait a minute, so it would be actually,
October of 25, but it's fiscal 26.
okay, so it would be October of 25.
Yes.
Yeah, good, I like that.
Then I have, of course, I have another pickup truck to get rid of that old 2005. The tree clearing is something Dave, Dave, can you describe that?
Sure. What we've got is we have 3 sections still remaining over our high-pressure main, mostly where the sand hill is in Lake Como, where they're building the new Dollar General or whatever. From there, coming back towards the high school where White Road is, there's a section, there's 2 sections in there. Neither one of those sections have been cleared since 1973. There's pine trees growing over our high-pressure main. We now have almost 300 generators on our gas system. So if we have a hurricane and one of those trees takes the main out, and those people can't lose their generators, we're gonna be really in deep water. But the 3rd section is there where the high school football field is, right there where the old ticket stand is, right, there's one stuck in the tree, you can barely see it. From there, maybe 500 feet south, that's another section. But altogether, they re-estimated it earlier this year, and it came up about 75,000. But not that I want to spend the money, but it's a major liability because it's over our high-pressure main.
And then that's our easement, right? Or we, is it, do we own the land?
It's DOT. So DOT makes us do a tree survey of what you're gonna cut down, how you're gonna do it. They get their hands in it, they get about 20,000 of it right there.
If we're replacing that line though, won't that,
We won't replace that line probably for another 30 years.
it's not part of that $7 million grant? No. So this will be grant funded as well.
It's 3-inch steel, but that wasn't in that because that would suck up all that money right there.
Oh,
This is all low pressure stuff, but, we could look into that next year. You know, we'd be in the same right of way footprint, but we just directional bore go deep because it is 3-inch steel. That's considered a bastard size in pipe now. It would go to 4-inch. But that's a very good point, so I'll look into that for next year. Matter of fact, I'll look at that tomorrow. I'll get with Katie and see if we can't write up another grant for that.
So we have it in the grant column. We'd fund that with grants.
Okay, and Mayor, I have one request. When you redo this at some time, could you please indicate that it's tree clearing for gas lines?
Yes.
Because I was a little concerned about that. I didn't know what the plan was.
And a lot of those trees up on the sand hill, they're all sand pines. They're absolutely useless.
Right.
There's a few pines in there, and I think there's one pristine hickory tree that I've hate to see go, but all the rest is mostly just scrub.
Right, well, I mean, I thought maybe it was for the city.
Oh,
You're talking
sure.
about the gas lines. I just want to make sure. it's-
Who's making
Yeah.
the grant application? Who's
Excuse me?
making the grant application?
That would be up to you again.
So they're gonna do that for us, okay?
They know how to put all the ifs and ands and here's and
They seem
thous
to
and
know that now.
really,
Yeah,
really juice it up.
they
But I'm the
really
one
seem
that
to know
have
how
to
to
plug the
get their
numbers.
grant money. I like that.
We appreciate you.
Not a problem.
They speak grant, right?
Yes, very
Yeah,
well.
That's what I say. I don't speak grant, but, somebody has to.
So then, next is a riding lawnmower. It'll be time to get a new mower. In 26, those are about $15,000. And then the chipper would be for our debris piles and so forth. We can chip that stuff ourselves. Again, that would also be grant. I have that in a better place right now. And again, we're gonna look at this list again next year as we prepare for the year.
It's like one of those ones that you have, like behind the Davy or the people that cut power lines, that you have up and it shoots into the truck.
Yeah.
But that doesn't include the truck, right? We would have to,
So we'll have to put an attachment on our dump truck.
Mayor, if I could just,
I'd like us to have that now.
yeah, I have a comment and a question about that. Number one, the tree board years ago asked the city to please get a chipper because the mulch is very valuable.
Yeah.
And would this create usable mulch?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we create mulch.
Okay, but the second thing is, the school district took down a tree over on, I think it was South Park.
Mhm.
And, I stopped, talked to them, and they were hauling this stuff away. They didn't have a chipper. I said, because I wondered, like, would there be mulch available? And they said, oh no, we don't have a chipper, there's terrible liability for that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They watched Fargo.
Fargo, I was just gonna say, well,
I mean,
I was gonna say,
That's a help.
you obviously haven't watched Fargo.
I don't know, that would not be a movie I would watch, but I mean, this was a very competent tree company from St. Augustine, and they said they had made that decision. I would like to have availability of mulch and, you know, for public works to be able to chip stuff up. But should we ask FMIT whether that has any liability for us?
We can research that.
I mean, or are there chippers that have special guards, hopefully?
They all have safety devices, but
I would hope.
But if you get
just
caught,
depends on the operator.
Right.
you just have to be careful.
I used to cut my own firewood and stuff, and, we had a big chipper, and, you just gotta know what you're doing and pay attention.
And be slow and
Yes,
methodical.
yeah, you can't,
No rush.
kind of- right. I mean, we used to be able to do trees, just throw trees in this big.
So the next item is storm drain repairs. These are just broadly, we put it in the grant column. We would seek a grant to make repairs to our inlets and so forth, right? Is that what that's for? And then the stormwater master plan, it's just something we've needed. We were supposed to have one done by 2011 in our comp plan. So we updated the comp plan, just took the deadline out. But we still need a stormwater map. Those are usually about $300,000 or more.
Never had one,
Never.
correct?
No.
Yeah.
Correct. So I put that under legislative appropriation, actually, but we'll also look for grants. Mid-Hour is very good at looking for grants for us.
What about,
There's several.
St. John's Water Management? Do we have anybody talking to them to see what they might have available in grants also?
We could ask again. Well, last time I asked, like the READY grant, those are
Yeah, I was gonna say.
water quality grants. I don't know if they'll fund a storm. It's worth asking.
That's one that would be related to water quality.
You know, Mayor, I asked someone from the Water Management District, could they help us and could they get with the city manager? I don't think they ever did. And they were very vague about helping.
Okay, well, again, maybe we need to hold their feet to the fire.
Well,
That's-
yes, I was just saying, they put out great brochures, but I never heard back from them. I don't think Charles did.
You can get stormwater grants from St. John.
You can't.
Yeah, we've already done several of them. That's
No,
what we put in them.
Right, but it's not a
And
master.
I'm not sure if they
They'll do planning
fund
efforts.
master plans, but I know I've seen, there were several legislative appropriations this year, but also
For plans.
the governor pretty much nixed all of them, all water projects almost. But they were in there,
So we also have
all of that.
a meter reading system. Keith, can you describe what that is?
As of right now, we're on a radio read type system, and also still we're at touchpad where the recorder has to walk up and touch it. Eventually, once we get it all switched over, Dave is actually working on his part. It'll be all drive-by, or either we can go to have it set up to where Java just hits a button and it's done.
Now, is this 400,000, that one that'll read the whole city from here?
I don't think so.
I'm not sure if that's the one that he said would do the whole thing, or if it would be drive-bys.
There's a system where it keeps checking. So if someone's got a leak, it catches it right away. It's not days and thousands of gallons of
I
water.
think
We
that's
see,
something that we
like,
would
wow,
want
this
to-
usage got up.
to find out the difference, because that would be so much beneficial. I hate to put money into this and then us switch over to that, so.
I think that's what this is for, isn't it?
The
$400,000.
city system can do that, but as far as gas, no. I mean, Palaca has that, but we're bigger than Palaca, but Palaca's always crammed into one spot. Ours, you'd have to have repeater towers and all that. We would strictly have to go to a drive-by, but we could read the whole system in 2 days. It would make our meter reading, it would actually reduce the cost of the gas to the customer. We would make less money by going to that system because of the way it's read. But it would be beneficial at the end of the year for a loss and unaccountable to the government, because they're really sticking it to me over that. We're at about 6% loss. But all it is because of meter readings that overlap. you're billing, well, they already used it 30 days ago. So there's the problem there, but with Keith, it would be fantastic, and Palaca Gas has that system. They can tell if a customer just broke the lock off a meter and stealing gas, it'll ping it in 5 minutes, they'll send a code to the office and let them know your customer just broke the lock on your meter. That's for gas, but the same thing works.
This is for water.
Yes,
Yeah.
same deal works.
And depending on what it would cost to get the antennas put in.
But you wouldn't need that many antennas here.
Oh, yeah.
because you got the tower.
Yours been on the wall?
Oh, ours would cost a lot. We stick with the ground.
We have water towers.
Yeah. So that would be an appropriation or a grant. The fire hydrant program is just to begin putting money out there. When we finish this project now, that every year we get the ability to replace a couple out of our, it's really a water fund project. So we have the ability we've budgeted to replace any defective hydrants. We may not even use it, it's there. Farm taps is another Dave project, it's another grant funded project, right? $800,000?
That is another one right now, but it's one that I'll probably be writing, but when I started here, we had 100 of them. We're down to 28 now.
What is that?
What is a farm tap?
It's fun. If you go out to the cemetery where the FPL has their yard, well, underneath the water tower, you'll see that big above ground structure. That's called a regulator station. That controls Crescent City. Each town has one. A farm tap is when you go down to a Cherry Blossom.
Okay, yeah.
Right there where Cherry Blossom is, over on the left side where trucks are always trying to turn in and crush my farm tap. You see that little white barricade? All that is, it drops down the high pressure gas to low pressure to go to them. About like what a transformer does on your power strips, it reduces. So it has to reduce the pressure because we can't bring 100 pounds up to a meter set.
So if you're coming straight off the line, then you get a farm tap.
Yes, where you see those white structures, they're on top of the high pressure gas main itself. The latest one that got hit was up there at the high school.
Yeah.
If you look and see, I moved it back about 100 feet back from the intersection, and I had big 10-inch columns all around it, so they'll tear up any car that tries to go through it.
It might still.
But anyway,
It's a very vulnerable thing. You think about this
Yeah.
gas thing just sitting out
Sure,
there.
well, that's what happened at the high school. We just-
They wiped it out, yeah.
Like water meters, they're put in the wrong place.
oh yeah,
So basically it transitions pressure for delivery to the consumer
it
location.
reduces it to a safe pressure range.
So next is replace 2 lift stations. The idea is to start budgeting to go through and eventually replace all of our lift stations. And then I added a brick pavers on Central. This is just to continue the paver project that we've done, streetscaping, rather than do a multi-million-dollar streetscape.
And that one you have under grant sand.
Yeah, the hope would be to get a matching grant maybe, to get $100,000 and match it. And then again, I just repeated the redevelopment grants, the housing rehabilitation, the wayfinding, and then lampposts on Central. Just look for a grant to replace those old poles that are all just beat to a pulp. And then another wish list item, just public art, to look for a grant that would fund the public art installation. And then I put a downtown entry feature. Actually, I think both of our current and our previous redevelopment plan had us at the kind of the entry of the downtown to have a little column or some kind of sign that says welcome to downtown. So that's funded out of the central CRA out in 26. It'd be at each end. We own property, the fire station and either the Market Square, if we still own it, it's a possibility for entry feature signs.
Oh, are we gonna have that, are the developers gonna be here tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes. Yeah, tomorrow's the workshop for the developers.
Mayor, before we leave this page, I have a question.
Okay,
This was on a prior page, the item that says housing rehabilitation. I didn't quite hear what you said. What is housing rehabilitation for, housing in the North CRA area?
Yeah, so it'd be a grant program where that the few houses that are in the CRAs, we could provide a new roof or paint them or.
So for residential homes, just basically kind of like a version of the SHIP program.
Yes, removal of slum and blight is
Sure,
idea.
but we wouldn't be rebuilding a whole house, but we would be helping improve it,
Correct.
the substandard ones. And then, the downtown entry features made me remember a note that I had. Would it be possible either in the immediate fiscal year or this fiscal year, when you're talking about signage, wayfinding, entry features, to put in there, I guess I'm asking the commission, to put a historic marker and mark our historic district so that people will know when they're in it and when they're not.
We could pay for that out of beautification. Those signs are pretty inexpensive. The little brown sign, you mean, right? It says
Yeah.
National Register Historic District.
You could know, there's the one, there's a more expensive sign,
Oh, the big browns.
like the one by the AME church, the bronze one.
You're talking about the mark.
Right, because they say,
So they do the bronze markers on them?
Like at Dexter Beach, there's one for
Yes.
the first.
For the
right,
bicentennial.
exactly,
Yeah.
because when you have it in front of a significant structure or when it marks a historic district, that writing on there usually tells people a little bit about
The
it.
story. How much are those?
Those are.
And they're somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000, I
Because
thought.
you can get, that's one of the historic resources grants you can get is to put in a state one.
They stopped paying for those, they said.
Everything, yeah, I mean, it used to be just like $1,200
Yeah.
to pay for one, but then that, you have to get the writing approved by the state. So I guess, I mean, Mr. Miller knows, Danny Miller knows, because he's looking at getting one. But it should be around
Right,
2,000.
but I'm just thinking that would,
We put that in a better place for 25?
somewhere, because that would help people's attention
Okay.
to our historic district.
Where would you put it?
Well, we'd have to find
How
out
many,
exactly
how many are we gonna need?
boundary. Well, my thought was at least try to get them on 17. We could use a few and maybe put the more expensive ones in the more prominent locations and then get the little brown signs for the less prominent locations. Because the boundary,
Yeah, the brown one's for the boundary as you come in,
Yeah.
entering National Register Historic District.
right,
As a little
that
symbol.
doesn't tell you anything.
Right, yeah, but those are cheap.
Right, but the boundaries of the historic district zigzag, just depending on, it goes from block to block, right? But there would be a place on 17 where that would be the northern boundary as far as 17 goes, and then there would be a place on the southern boundary.
Well, if y'all can get some prices. And you can get an idea where those would go.
Sure. I'll do that, because that gives you a little cachet. Ouch, I'm sorry. Okay. that was
Okay,
my
you ready
question.
for 27?
Sure.
Getting a little more hypothetical. Again, City Hall relocation, there'll be I imagine that process is gonna take a while, so I put more money there. I think I put it in, where am I, 27, right? Yeah, I put it as debt, but again, it'll depend on where we get the money. And then we have a fire engine replacement, and that would be a grant funded, probably USDA grant to get a new fire engine. And then this one, I'm not sure this was a capital expense when I first saw it, equipping a full-time fire staff. This would not be the personnel, this would be to outfit. So let's say if the decision was made to go with a full-time fire crew in 27, we would have a lot of stuff they would need. The county currently provides us with all their equipment, but if we're adding a full thing, we may have to fund all that. So that would be a big lump sum purchase, I would imagine. But we've got time to figure that out. You may decide you don't want to go to a full-time fire staff or push it back. Historic Preservation Master Plan, this is also, we will apply for a grant probably next year. This is in our implementation strategy. And then New Moon Lodge restoration, $100,000. And this could either be a better place, or this is a match. These are those larger, what they call special category grants, are a match $200,000 to $250,000. So I have a grant of $100,000 and a match of $100,000.
Mayor, I have a question about that, and I'm standing up because my leg is bothering me, I don't fit in this chair. It is possible, isn't it, and this would be for our grant writers, if they do this, I don't remember, I thought they said they do historic preservation. There could be a private grant.
There could be other grant sources.
Well, there's federal U.S. Department of Interior grants, and I don't know, it's either an interior grant or a private grant that is for African American historic sites.
Right.
So I'm thinking, you know, because there are those special categories for African American or just persons of color, indigenous persons, historic sites, we might be able, especially if we could get help from grant writing, to go outside just the state source.
Correct. And this is pushed out to 27 because we need the plans in hand first to help us with the application.
Okay. So I'm gonna put private federal down there. Right.
The National Trust has that program for black churches.
Yes.
But I think that's-
So then the North Loop water main is back. So if we were successful at designing it, we would ask the state for an appropriation to install it. So I put $1 million there. Again, the fire hydrant replacement program is just ongoing funding of hydrants as needed. And then wastewater modernization project. This is a $5 million appropriation we would ask. I know Mid-Hour is working on this, right?
Yeah.
I think we've been applying ongoingly. So it would be a big check like our neighbors got, but maybe about $5 million to modernize the plant. It's going to be more and more critical as the years go by. And then we've got, again, replace 2 lift stations, a pickup truck, and then we have a skid steer out in the future. And Keith, what does a skid steer function as?
A little bit of everything,
It's about, yeah.
a little bit of everything.
Is it like a Bobcat? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes, same thing, it's a Bobcat. You
That's
get
a brand,
tracks
sorry.
or rubber tires.
And then I repeated the redevelopment grants, housing rehabilitation, wayfinding. We'll tweak all that after our CRA.
On housing rehabilitation, on the last year, you had a $100,000 grant.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was hoping we could get some grants that we could then match to go a little further.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, because you didn't have it in 27, I just want to make sure you're worried about it.
And then park benches is just to buy new benches for central CRA. We've rehabilitated what's out there, but it's how much longer they're gonna last. So any more questions on 27?
Some of these, like park benches, I mean, do we have to wait?
We don't, especially if the CRA budget, we can talk about, see if they fit somewhere. Usually it's a matter of, we have other things that we gotta pay for, and so either we find a grant or they wait. Those benches are typically $1,000 to $1,500 a piece.
And how many are there now? There's like 12 of them.
Yeah, and then we may wanna buy some others to put.
In some different places,
Like,
especially as you see more and more families, and I'm seeing more and more people walking and using our streets than I've ever seen. All hours of the day, early morning, midday really need someplace to sit every once in a while. And that happened to a lady out walking the other day. Luckily, she had a walker that she could sit on that she took with her because she got a cramp in her leg and she didn't have, and it was right there on Central and Prospect, and she didn't have anywhere to sit. But
Well, but the pathway that we have down at Lake Stella are we allowed to put benches along there, or is it because it's?
we should, and
We can.
I've had, like Ms. Williams has requested that, several people have actually mentioned that to me.
The part that's in the CRA, that CRA could fund those.
It would be great to have some landscape.
And what
I know
they,
we can't have trees that are too high, but there's gotta be trees and shrubs or something that we can because we have power lines above it, but we can put in trees that don't.
Yeah, those lines are pretty high.
And they do the benches and they'll do a divider. So a lot of, if we do the benches, they'll do the ones with the dividers now, so that people can't, yeah.
Can sleep on there. So in 28, again, I put the city hall relocation. We don't know what those numbers will be or the source of those funds, but we've got to begin to plan for that. I put another grant, New Moon Lodge restoration. And then paving dirt roads is here. If we're successful, if we don't get this grant, that'll push them all back 1 year. So we'll reapply next year. That'll push this one back into 29. Again, the fire hydrant replacement is a repeat.
So wait, that's more dirt roads?
This will be a second set. Yeah, we've kind of divided them
Okay,
into,
so
yeah.
there is 2 sets of.
Yeah, and there's actually a third set. We didn't put the point in any of those plans for dirt roads. So that would actually be a third set of roads in the future.
Is that for this, is that, I guess it is public.
Those are city streets, yeah.
The city streets, yeah, okay. It's just the middle area that's not public.
The Lake Street Water Main Project, we have that on our list of projects, just like Main Street and Prospect, Lake Street replacement as well. So out in the future, we'll need to apply for a grant to design that. So I have $300,000 in there. May only be 150 or something. No, we have many other projects. This is just another one off the list on the map on the wall behind you over there. And then another wastewater modernization, another $5 million appropriation. I think it was the first one, water. No, they're both wastewater, yeah. And then septic to sewer conversion project, that's, a lot of that's on Grand Rondo and some other areas where there are still a lot of septic tanks. That's a design grant. Then replace 2 lift stations, another truck, and the fire department's gonna need to replace their SUV about that time. And then I put the redevelopment grants and housing rehabilitation, took out the wayfinding, hopefully will be done by then. And then seeking another public art grant. And then this vacant property purchases in the central CRA, that's in the implementation strategy we talked about. At some point, we just go to those buildings and vacant lots that are just not moving and ask and see if we can offer to buy them.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
So speaking of vacant lots on Central CRA, Central Avenue, right next to King's Office Supply, I guess that's Central and, Prospect, Central and Prospect, right? The for sale sign is down on the corner, so,
It's been
Not
down
that
there
long time
ago.
I know, well, I'm like, who bought it?
The Carters.
The Carter-
that lived down
Liz and Jay Carter, they bought it.
Central,
Oh,
across from
okay.
down the hatch.
People who, all right, I didn't know, because it seems to have been graded.
Yeah,
It
they
is.
dug up the foundation.
Clean
left
and
there.
She's been maintaining
The footers,
it
yeah.
and, I think she's gonna try to do, she's looking at some possibilities as to what she's gonna do there, so she's,
Okay, so
So
one
It's a
less
business
vacant lot.
activity.
Yeah,
right,
they tore that building down, but never left the footers.
yeah.
Right, well, the building's been gone for
Right.
forever. Okay, so that's one less vacant lot.
Then the fire staffing issue is there again, and then a GIS mapping system. That's sort of a wish list item that in the future we'd be able to do GIS in-house. Time will tell.
That requires a GIS person.
We would have to actually have a staff person that do that. And then finally in 29, a lot of repeat, the pickup truck, a fire hydrant replacement program. This is the water plant replacement. If we only have $500,000 for that, what is that? Why is it so much cheaper for the water plant? It has only have $500,000 for the water plant replacement.
Well, for one, the water plant don't have this. We just got wells and pumps,
Yeah, it's not.
but I would like to eventually try to acquire some property from the cemetery next to North Tower
Uh-huh.
to do 100,000 gallon storage tanks, which would help,
This is ground level.
That
Ground
level.
level.
Oh,
do ground storage. and do it like that. Maybe talk to the cemetery, just getting that strip all the way to Grove. And eventually, we could probably eventually put some wells out there, because who knows how long them's gonna last. They've been in the ground forever.
And what, we have 8 of them now, right? There's 8 wells out
There's
licensed or registered.
an 8, a 6, and like 4 or 5 4-inch wells.
But we basically use
Yes.
one, right? I mean,
Yes,
one isn't solving for the need.
yeah, and 2 of the wells are out in the Martin Nelson Park.
And then we've got some wishful items, public art, clock tower, splash pad. Those are items really to kind of spur you all to start thinking about amenities, like down the Rhine, we want to plan for them, start going after grant opportunities.
Clock tower, is that like a big clock?
It's a big clock, town clock, and, with 2 sides.
Front of Black.
Okay.
Not like the clock tower, but like on a stand.
But that's just me, I don't like that.
No, I will, now that he's brought up a big clock, Angel Duke a few years ago said something really funny at a Rotary dinner to Patrick Kennedy. It wasn't complimentary, because Angel and I were dismayed to find out we used to have a noon whistle here.
Yes.
That is tied to our agricultural heritage. I think it was at the fire department.
Yeah.
And when Angel and I were kids, at 12 o'clock, the noon whistle went off. And Patrick Kennedy informed us that he had surplused it. Maybe that was you too, Keith.
Surplus the whistle.
It's sitting at the yard, isn't it?
We bought one in 2004 or 5.
Well,
We bought one in like a tornado
I
siren
don't
in
think we.
2005, and then that's been,
That was not Patrick Kennedy,
Museum.
well, he told us it
that
was.
was Marcus Collins.
Okay, all I can say is Patrick, that, that he was sitting there in a group of people. So I guess what I'm saying is, if we're talking about telling time, I would love to have a noon whistle. It was cool.
one of the first things we
Well, I
bought.
did it from the First Baptist Church, because when the chimes go, I'm like, okay, it's 12 o'clock, okay, it's 1 o'clock.
But anyway, it was
Where
a
the
good.
flagpole is now,
Yeah,
out here, is where the new siren was put up.
okay.
And that was 2000, that was when our first,
Marcus was here.
that was our first Better
They
Place
wanted
plan.
a new siren.
that was our first Better Place plan purchase, was
Yeah,
a tornado siren.
and so nobody never used it, we've never done nothing with it.
I mean, if there's a tornado, can we use it?
Well, it's not there anymore.
Yeah, you can, but
They-
nobody never said it all.
Yeah, that was my biggest question at the time was,
Okay,
So,
Well,
I do have one question though, and I know with the clock tower, and they are pretty, I mean, I get that, but, our marquee out here,
Too small.
it's too small.
Yep.
It's hard for people to read it,
It moves too fast.
and so you've got to like hope that you get stuck at the light for a long time. But we don't see where we have it anywhere in here and doing a replacement on that.
that was the second thing we bought with Better Place plan money.
It was like
And so
10
I
grand.
just think that that's something that we should look at, that if we can upgrade it, if there's anything we can do to that. I don't know how much they are, and then Malacca got a really nice one.
One
They,
park has been.
and Pomona Park's, theirs is very nice, it's much easier to read and it's bright.
Really bright.
So I.
So what about our sign ordinance, because I think that thing is
Yeah.
actually
It-
not.
it
That's
exempts
exact-
government
no, it's
information.
for government,
Government
so we
information
exempted
signs.
it, we did exempt
We
it.
are allowed to put up whatever we
Yeah,
want.
they're very, very expensive too.
And that was $10,000 when we bought that
And Miss
one.
DeVito, if you would like, I will bring the old siren,
You have
I
it?
will set it in your yard.
I want it in my yard. I
Oh,
want it.
no, it'll go perfect with your storage home, it'll look good out front.
No, but you have
We'll
to have
mount it on
somebody
the top.
No, but let's put it
willing
this
to do it.
way. If you have it, the historical society might want it, and it should be in a public location. I don't think it belongs on private residential property. Mayor, I have two things I wanted to mention before we light out here. Okay, so number one, Charles has been very good about earmarking, or not earmarking, but designating things that we might ask for legislative appropriation. So we need to get that on our calendar because we will have to present that, that delegation meeting. And we will have 2 new legislators, since both our representative and our state senator are termed out, but with the election, I'm not sure when the legislative meeting will be, but we need to plan on that. And as well for future years, we've heard this at League of Cities, and I know this from my past experience. Some of these things that you're asking legislative appropriation for, you need to try to see if you can get them somewhere in an agency budget. And that means you have to be ready, like you would have to contact DEP or whatever agency it was, if there was a water issue. You'd have to get with them maybe back in April or May and ask them to recommend it to the government. So whatever it is that we have in here, we need to kind of get a calendar and a long-term plan to make sure that our requests, we're not doing it late, we're doing it as early as we can. Because that gives you a little bit more chance of success, especially if it gets in the governor's budget. And that's not that easy to do, there has to be a category for it. But I thank Charles for identifying all these things as possibilities. The other thing is, I don't know, I was thinking about the last 2 commission meetings have gone till 10:30. And I noticed particularly at our last meeting, we were very generous with the time, but we didn't get to the rezonings and ordinances until almost 8 o'clock. We had good presentations, but I think they could have been a lot shorter, especially,
We all know what you're talking about.
right, and so I guess the bottom line is to be fair to everybody. It seems to me that speakers, and I love that, particularly that ARC, they gave us a wonderful written set of information before the meeting, which is hopefully the standard. But I think we really need to ask people to take a set time, like 10 minutes, and make their ask, and then give us a little time for questions.
And that goes for us too, because that goes for us too, and the amount of time we take with our questions and our discussions, because that just took several minutes just to say, presentations need to be short.
Okay, well, I'm trying to be tactful about it, and particularly, there was something that was, I love the service the sheriff provides, but I think we need to give them a time limit. There were some things that were presented that could have been done in the memo, and that would have been better done in the memo. I was not comfortable announcing to the world that, well, I'll tell the sheriff, but they go into a lot of detail, and I don't necessarily think that that's necessary.
Well, I disagree with you on that.
For every crime, I don't know that we really need to know they ran up this street, they went down that street.
Well, that was some questions that were asked, and that was something that I think, that's not the norm, and there was heightened concern throughout the community, and I think it was just a good opportunity for them to say, this was more of an isolated incident, and what happened with that. So I disagree with that. I think especially with where we are currently, that our law enforcement, I think that the people, and that's a good opportunity for people that come into and look at and watch our meetings, for them to get a better understanding of what's going on in the community from a law enforcement standpoint. So I think, and he does try, and I think all the other commissioners, what I'm hearing from your fellow commissioners is that they feel like some of that information needs to be heard.
Okay, and I will just say, this one reason we need to make sure we get to the business part of the meeting sooner is this commission, this is the only time we can talk to each other, and that's very important. We need to have plenty of time for the city manager's report, and we need to have sufficient time for each commissioner to bring up concerns because we can only talk here. And if we don't talk here, that means we aren't the ones making policy. We're just letting it happen.
May I just make?
And we've never done that. Our meetings are so much longer than they've ever been. When I look back on the meetings prior to the last 4 years, they were at the best an hour, sometimes an hour and 20 minutes. So
I'm just gonna say one thing, I think all the commissioners here, we're very ready for the meeting. I know I'm ready for the meeting, I've gone through the packet, I understand what's in the packet. And I sometimes feel that, we get some long, explanations as to what's in the packet, I guess because we don't feel we can talk about it. But a lot of times, that's where a lot of the discussion is. I'm just gonna say this, Commissioner Vito, you have a tendency to observe a lot, and I've already observed it. I've already been through it. I already kind of know where I'm going with most of what we're looking at, and I don't need somebody to go through it for me, I guess. But you're very educational. How does that sound? I'm trying to be objective with my talk, and sometimes it's really not needed. I think you understand what's going on, and I think that we all do. And so you should have courtesy to know that when we make the motion, a lot of us, we could probably sum up what we feel in a couple words and just get it done a little quicker. That's about all I'm
Can I
saying.
ask a question that has nothing to do with this?
Yes, thank you.
For the FLC coming up, there's the deadline to apply if you want to be on the, correct me if I'm wrong, the legislative committees for the FLC. And I just wanted
The policy.
the policy committees, thank you. I knew
Yes,
there was
the
one.
policy.
I just wanted to know if anybody was going to be serving on one of those, so that, because you can only have one person on each. I didn't know.
I'm on municipalities.
Okay, that's what I thought you had, and were you going to?
Right. Right
They
now,
did rearrange some of them, so I
they
don't know.
changed the names.
Yeah.
I've served on, what is it, intergovernmental relations and transportation. They've changed the name of that, and I was trying to decide whether to put that one as my first choice or another one. And yes, the deadline is that conference.
Yeah.
Should we talk about that tomorrow?
It was just something, yeah, because I wanted to see if one of them fit what I wanted to be interested in, or what I was interested in.
What do you?
But I don't know, there's several that I would choose, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't stepping on someone else's toes.
Well,
Because we obviously can't.
And while you're on that subject, Harry Banks cannot make it because his wife has doctor's appointments. So I believe that they are giving him something, so whoever's going to the Florida League of Cities, if they could pick that up for him and represent.
Oh, so we're gonna, but if they do a presentation, then we are gonna need a presenter, somebody to.
Somebody to,
accept
yes,
it, to
because,
accept it. Okay.
He had stated that when I booked it, when I booked his room,
Yeah.
and then he came back and said he can't make it.
So now we
Ask him who he would like. to
Yeah, I
accept.
think that would be the thing, is
Ask
who
him.
would he like to accept it? And
Or
then I
just
need
be happy.
to send a letter also, so as a delegate, to give him a delegation, to assign, yeah, to
The
assign.
voting
Yeah.
delegate.
Okay,
So
Who's the-
I'll have to do that.
we definitely have to get that
The
going.
most senior in service of us, would be Commissioner Vito, right?
It would be, but he needs to, yes, for that, but he
No, I'm
needs
not-
to.
No,
Yeah,
I'm talking about the voting delegate, I just figured.
She was last year.
Okay.
I did it actually there, I gave it to her there after the breakfast. But, I'm not gonna serve on one of the committees because I'm on the board of the North Florida region.
Okay.
North Florida League of Cities, I'm on their board, so I'm not gonna do.
I
I'm
knew
boarded,
Commissioner-
I'm boarded out.
I knew Commissioner Vito and Commissioner Vito served
I'm
last
not
year.
Oh,
bored,
You are.
but I am boarded out.
You are.
No, there's only so many meetings.
There's
that
so
you
many
have to be.
meetings, and so many things that you can do, so,
I just was looking at the email last night again, and I wanted to
But,
ask that question, so.
very quickly, how long do you expect our workshop to be tomorrow for the presentation?
hours.
Well, the presentation itself will be pretty quick. It's your opportunity to meet the developer, ask questions, give your impressions of the development. So, it might be an hour, it might be couple items, if we
All
just
right,
go on.
'cause you had, Charles and I were on a Zoom call today, and you said something about like 3 hours. I just want to be prepared.
I blocked it out on my calendar, 3 hours.
Well, I'm hoping it won't be 3
We
hours.
start at 3, right?
3 o'clock, yeah.
3 o'clock.
I may only be an hour,
So,
but,
about 3 hours. 2.5.
Okay, but tomorrow I will bring the committee that I've been on and tell you if I expect
Because I know they
to
changed the
reapply.
names, yeah.
Yeah, well, they changed some of the subject
I think
matter.
the one with, yeah, planning
Always
and
bring the
redevelopment.
popcorn.
Planning and
So you
development or
brought
something.
get with
I forgot what this one was, but it has to do with planning and,
just a little
Something.
land regulation.
Huh?
I think. Should have a-
Yeah,
No, we're not.
just needed something. Yeah, this afternoon. Okay, are we done?
Uh-huh.
Okay, with that, I'm going to adjourn the workshop.
Oh, here it is. Municipal operations, utility, natural resources, and public works, intergovernmental relations, mobility, and emergency management. And then development, code compliance, and redevelopment. And then finance and the taxation. I don't know, what was yours?
Okay.
Or maybe it's municipal operations. I don't know. I know they changed the name.
Municipal operation.
Okay. So then I'm good on, development, code compliance, and redevelopment.
The way to do it is.
I did, I already adjourned the
I'm
meeting.
sorry,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I should have talked about this.
Meeting, you know, I left me to tell y'all, but it did not scold me.
But it's not something we vote on.
Right.
They, and the way they do this, I don't know if you noticed, you
Oh.
put your random choices,
Okay.
and
He's
so
supposed
in
to give
other
me
words,
prices this week.
You're not guaranteed.